right, well, there you go. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to talk today about, so today you get me the whole time, good or bad. Um, so we're going to do some talking today about achieving business alignment, some core concepts for business architecture. That's kind of what we do. And people talk about strategy execution, people talk about a lot of different things that business architects do. And I did some stuff that's kind of, it just redid some stuff that would be really timely for this conversation. So anyone I don't know, Linda Finley founded the TCBF community, Twin Cities Business Architecture community, 15 years ago, and delighted by my decision to do that and ongoing involvement like every day, because this is our people, this is where we hang out. And I really apologize for being under the impression that there were only a few of us here. So we're going to do this. And you'll hear more about how we're making some of the adjustment and changes as we go. So normally what we do at these meetings is, okay, now we're going to see if I can make this move. It did. Okay. Normally what we do at these meetings is we have a little bit of a me talk time to talk about whatever business of the organization is going on, and then we go into a speaker. And today it happens that I'm the speaker. So I will continue the content delivery, and then we will have a time for discussion. So that is what we're doing. So we're going to do a little recap of the annual summit, which we had in January, January 7, 8, 9. Hopefully many of you made it. I do know I saw many of you there. I just don't know what we had. You'll get the details on that. We're going to talk a little bit about our organization and engagement, and then actually our business alignment conversation is going to lean right into that organization and engagement and the work we need to do going forward to try to, in the interest of continuous improvement. And so that is where we are, because business architects we can work anywhere. We work on any altitude, on any platform, on any organizational size, any type of organization. The thought, the mindset and thinking and process for business architecture applies to like anything. And I can back that up. I will defend that statement. And I've used it on individual career development. I've used it on, so business architecture, meaning maybe it's misnamed, but the idea that there's contextual relationship to everything, whether that's a business, an organization, an individual, an association, a community like ours. And we can use the tools we know how to use to assess, reassess, align, establish, invent, contract, expand. We just need to think about architecting things as opposed to necessarily being, we just don't want to stay in a box. We don't want to limit ourselves. But you're going to see some of that today. Okay, and then open conversation is really important at the end. All right, so smashing success of the January conference. That's how we named this. We had our 10th annual Business Architecture Summit. It was big and it was fun and it was important. We had six. Well, let's start with, we had reaching a couple hundred people, about 180-ish is what we came to, between the registered and then the people that we know showed up in sort of in the background and add-ins. So we had that many people. We were at Best Buy, which was a wonderful location for a conference of this type. We ran 4 tracks plus our main stage. And you can see here 60 presenters, equaling 40 sessions so we had 4 tracks of 8, and then we had 8 more at the main stage. And then we had all my talk up on the main stage as well. So there were a lot of presentations, and we had a lot of presenters, which, by the way, all community members, all coming together to deliver deliver the content that we are here to deliver. We had 5 sponsors, which was delightful. 3 at the community level, going forward, and then we had the rest were event sponsors. And that is unusual for us, but something that we're going to lean further into. We're going to do more with. Oh, Chris, let me.
Yeah, no problem. I didn't want to interrupt you. I believe you were speaking to the next slide. Can you advance? I can kind of see it a little bit, but some of the stats you're talking about, but it's not on your main.
Oh no! How can you
Yeah,
kind?
I've got you showing us on slide 2, and I think you're on slide 3.
Sure am. I don't know why you can't see that.
There we go. Thank you. Sorry.
You just have to. I don't know why that is because I am looking at it on 2 screens, but that's okay. I'll whatever works. So we're on Zoom, and we haven't used Zoom. I haven't used Zoom for ages. We've been using Teams, but I already spoke to the confusion of the presentation. Doesn't matter. Okay, so thank you for pointing that out. I would have been sad if I kept talking and you guys couldn't see what I was talking about. Okay, so there you go. Now you can see the stats and the details here. Oh, why don't I? Yeah, well, I probably am, Chris. Thank you, but that's okay. I'm just gonna not care. So now you can probably see the chat. Um, okay. Sorry. All right, I'm just gonna do this. Okay, so 4 tracks, 8 main stage presentations. Many of you were there. Super, super grateful for the people that we had presenting. Super grateful for the people that showed up. We did plan, and this was kind of an experiment year. We moved our date into the 2nd week of January. And from our event planning perspective, didn't have the runway we needed prior to the conference, in my opinion, because of the holidays and because of all the distractions of the new year. So we are rethinking that, and you'll hear about that in a little bit. We had 2 parties that were super fun and super well attended, surprisingly well attended. So everything was great. Let's see now. Okay, these are the advisory board presenters. So TCBF has 2 layers of governance in its current state, and that is we have an operating board, which is the people that you know and have seen. I can talk about who they are, but these are the advisory board presenters. We have about 50 advisory board members, and all these people showed up to present. Some flew, some didn't, but they were extraordinarily helpful, and I'm very, very grateful to them. So that is the call out to thank them. Here is the survey results slide. We had roughly almost 180 attendees, very high response rate, really speaking to survey results. And we had about half of the respondents. So here, tactical error, about half of the respondents said that they would help with future events, and then didn't tell us their names. So some of them didn't. And so we're going to go on a little investigative journey to try to figure out who will help, because of course this is all volunteer. The volunteer army is required to put on an event of this size and scope. Even the smaller events take that kind of support. We had a lot of people provide comments and feedback, which is not actually that common. We had a ton of LinkedIn activity afterwards, which is a sign of a great event and a really engaged audience. We had high overall satisfaction, high content satisfaction, which I am not surprised at all, because I personally thought all the content was fantastic. All the presenters were fantastic. And then high net promoter score. So people would recommend this event to people that they know. So we're gonna, oh, here's some overall comments. The event exceeded expectations across the board. Content foundation very strong. So keeping in mind that our purpose and our mission with our events is making making things accessible that otherwise would not be accessible to our members. So we are a conduit and a hub and a clearinghouse for and a connector for content and resources that and people and handshakes and relationships and connecting to people that and information that you otherwise wouldn't maybe have available to you. And that was extremely strong. It was something that came out universally. So job one done. And the other thing that we are always focused on events and all of our activities and everything is community. We want to have that feeling of community. We want to have that involvement, that connection into this community of business architecture practitioners and affinity groups. And that was the other thing that was mentioned as extraordinarily high. One of the things that came up was this market positioning is how it got labeled on here. But we've heard for now the continuous improvement part. We've heard for a while that we need to pay attention to or think about, is TCBAF, the Twin Cities Business Architecture Forum, a local organization, a local community, or is it a global community, or is it somewhere in between? When we were founded, we had the intention, because of where business architecture started and because of how we were starting was we were local. And that's where we lived for a while. And then we became more and more digitally, we were held locally, always open, of course, to anyone that wanted to participate, if they wanted to fly, travel, anything else. And then COVID pushed us to a hybrid model where we had digital connecting, virtual connecting, as well as in person, which frankly, I will say, I don't think we ever did that well. And we got to keep working on this. Case in point, here's me not even looking at who was all on the Zoom call. But that was my error, so I apologize again. But really, getting into who our identity, what is our identity? I think, and I have made the argument for a couple of years now, as the founder and owner of TCBF, that TC, Twin Cities Business Architecture Forum, is our roots, but it doesn't mean we're not expansive beyond that. And using examples, precedent, like I always throw out the example of a Boston Scientific, for example. No one thinks Boston Scientific only does work in Boston. Everyone understands that Boston Scientific is a global company. And the footprint is huge, but still has a location in its name. We can do that too, but and we have been doing it, but the answering the question a lot is an indication that it's still not quite clear. So we've been making having some conversation, making some decisions about that. Now, then I'm going to lean into our business alignment conversation, because what we've been doing is thinking about business alignment of TCBAF, the organization, the community, the association, the business league that we are, and how do we position this organization from an alignment conversation and alignment perspective in our next 15 years to really serve all of our business architects and adjacent and affinity communities and the roles and people that care about business architecture. How do we position ourselves best to serve that view? Does anyone have, so we're going to launch into that right now. Now we're going to go into the content part of talking about business alignment. I'm curious if anyone has comments, questions, anything to say before we do that. I don't see any hands up, and I see 33 participants, and we will continue. Okay. And everyone is moving into a blue screen now that says February forum, achieving business alignment through continuous business model realignment. If you're not seeing that screen, let me know. But that is where we are. Okay. And we're into part 3 of the agenda. Okay, let's start with business alignment. What we know to be true about business alignment, and this is something that I talk about all the time. So anyone that knows me is we first establish and clarify and articulate our purpose. Whether we're working with a startup organization, a corner store, a massive enterprise, everyone needs to understand our purpose. What is the purpose statement? The North Star. What is our purpose and what are our values? This is different than mission and vision. Mission is what we do every day. It's very daily. It's what the mission is. It doesn't necessarily even need to continue to have front of mind the purpose, although the mission should be built from the purpose. But what we do every day is not why we exist. Hopefully those are super, super well integrated. But and vision is what we want to be in the future. It doesn't necessarily speak to mission or purpose. I mean, it should be the purpose that we're continuing to realize in the future. But so there's a real key. If you've been with me in some of my classes and some of the things I've done, this is when we speak to the aliens, we speak to the external someone living on another planet that really needs to understand in the most clear, articulated terms, what is our purpose? Why do we exist? Why do we get out of bed in the morning? That is a very, very powerful notion. And if everyone understands in the organization, every single person in the organization, whatever it is, understands the purpose, then you will be able to drive alignment. You'll drive alignment you'll identify those strategies that will achieve that purpose. You'll drive alignment of the whole organization, enablement structure, operating and engagement models to that purpose. And in doing that, we're healthy, we're energized, we're invigorated, and everyone understands the drum that we're marching to. So even if the mission of the day changes about, it's not going to change too far afield from our purpose, and the purpose remains the same. So the North Star, if we can call it that, is our purpose and values. And this is something I believe, and it's where I've seen successful organizations have. So I'll just say it this way. If you don't understand where you're sitting right now in your moment, if you don't understand the purpose of the things you're involved with, your organization, your little league team, your church group, your household, if you don't understand the purpose, if you have your eyes off that purpose, and then also your values, so the behaviors that are okay, the norms and the rules and the customs of how you behave. If you don't have those two things locked, you should pause and you should get them locked. That is the first step to operating in a healthy way, into executing, into just thriving, surviving. Super, super, super important. And we have exercises. A business architects know how to have take groups through exercises and workshops to get alignment to this, and facilitate stakeholders to this as well. We're not going to spend more time on that. I already hit that probably way harder than you needed me to. But so if we start with this, TCBF, the organization called Twin Cities Business Architecture Forum, the legal 501c6 that exists in the world, this is our purpose. We are dedicated to education, advocacy, collegiality, meaning belonging, inclusion, and support for the understanding and advancement of the role, value, and organizational benefits of the fundamentals offered through the practice of business architecture. What that says is we are here for our members, whoever they are, sponsor, partner, business leader, architect, engineer, engineer, whatever, it doesn't matter, project manager, business analyst, whoever's coming around to really lean into The role, value, and organizational benefits of the fundamentals offered through the practice of business architecture is included. This is a highly inclusive environment. This is what we're supposed to be doing. Does this surprise anyone, or did you not know this? But this has been on our website, so maybe you haven't been there, but I'm curious if anyone has any thought or surprise, or this doesn't seem aligned. Okay, cool. So if that is the way we were founded, and we revisit this all the time, annually at least. Oh, Chris Lockhart.
Hey, Linda, I was wondering if you could elaborate on what you mean by collegiality.
Yeah, I'm going to say inclusion, helpfulness, sense of community. So a collegial mindset, right? So we're helping each other. We're mentoring each other. We are sharing ideas, promoting best practices. That's how we were originally founded, and we continue to be. Acceptable? Okay, good. Thumbs up. Collegiality might not be the most modern contemporary word. Maybe we think about that, but it is really building that community. So maybe it should say community, but anyway, we'll work on that. Or we'll think about that. But here's the thing, we test this all the time. This hasn't changed. So the Twin Cities Business Architecture Forum still tries to accomplish this as our purpose all the time, through all of our mission, through all of our strategic initiatives, through the fact that we started having summits 10 years ago, through because what we do is double down on all of this. We create an environment, we create an event annually, or more than that, actually more than that now. But the idea is that we're there to do this. And if anyone sees us not there to do this, or that we're straying too far from this, I expect that anyone would raise their hand on that. Okay, and actually, likewise, if you have more ways to do this besides what we're thinking about, again, raise your hand on that. This is a community, so it is all of us. It is not me, and we are it. So, helping is good, and participating is good. Collegial behavior is good. Okay, so check our North Star. Check. This still exists. This is what TCBF is. Does this still serve us as we're thinking about what we're going to do in the future? Yes, it does, as far as we understand and as far as we can discern together. Okay, so now we're going to talk about business alignment, and this is the value stream that I have put together, and I would promote, and we could spend a lot of time on this particular slide, but the idea of creating a value stream, which is a business architecture artifact or a model map item, and that is what helps us understand the steps we'll go through, the stream of phases that we'll go through when we're doing anything, delivering any kind of value, delivering any kind of customer benefit. It's almost, that is always defined as there's a stakeholder or customer that's receiving benefit from this. But the idea that alignment happens should be happening all the time. This is something that we're thinking about. We're thinking about, is our purpose, and are we still aligned to the same purpose and values? Do we understand the North Star? Are we there? And then we go right into to the business model. To the business model, does that business model actually deliver? This is strategy to execution. This is strategy to reality. This is all the words we use to describe what we do every day, and all the next books that'll be written, and all of the stuff we're trying to deliver, how we describe what business architecture does. This purpose and values are understood, articulated, and embodied. Then we think about what are the strategies that we're going to identify through strategy mapping and the other aspects of business architecture that are present in the BizBoc and our standard that's accepted and acknowledged. We take the strategies and the business models maybe that are necessary to achieve that product or other kind of strategic outcome, aligned to our purpose and values. And if we ever get into a strategy that is not aligned to our purpose and values, we should stop and we should say, why are we doing this thing? Because it's not who we are or what we intend to be in a North Star. Okay. So check yourself. That's where we are. I have a note up here. Alignment is not a phase, it's a system. This value stream is a system. And it's an always operating system. It's hard to have things always in our consciousness. But this, as business architects, as people who pay attention to the architecture of businesses or organizations, whether we're called a business architect or not, this should be operating, this value stream. I'm interested in your pushback, your feedback, your conversation, but this is what I'm promoting to you today. Alignment is not a phase. We don't say, once a year we get alignment. Nope. What we have to do is in a constant mode of realignment, not to the point of distraction, but to the point of health. How are you feeling today? It's kind of how to think about it. How are you feeling today? Oh, I've got a thing. I got a crick in my neck. I got to do something to understand why that happened and understand how I might need to adjust my life to address that. Go to a physician, go to an expert, sleep on my pillow differently, whatever it is. But the point is that we're in a constant realignment consciousness. Okay. And I'm saying this is extremely important today in this day and age. It maybe wasn't 20 years ago, 25 years ago in organizations because they could afford it. Things were moving so, much, much slower. And, or 40 years ago when I started working on this stuff. But truly, today we can't afford it. We have to be aware. There's an awareness here. So purpose and values locked in. Strategy and business model, we're going to talk about that next. The business model is absolutely essential. Business modeling is one of the most powerful things we can do, and using the simple frameworks that we already know about and that we have that are very commonplace, we and think about it in terms of organizational modeling or whatever the modeling is, but we refer to it as business model. That is a tool that we can lean into really hard for testing, checking ourselves, making those adjustments, figuring out where we might need to realign our capabilities, our value streams, and all the other parts of a business model because something is changing. And unfortunately, stuff's changing all the time. Really, really important, which is one of our superpowers, actually, as business architects that know how to think about this stuff, to say, okay, let's reassess. Okay. Important takeaway: alignment is not a phase, it's a system. It's a way of thinking, right? And then business models, this is doubling down on my point about where the business model fits in all of this. We're going to get into the next couple of slides. Business modeling and the tools we have, super simple, super straightforward. Everyone knows how to use this. Strategizer.com. They put this book out ages ago, Strategizer did, and it's included in the BizBook. It's included as an essential part of business architects too. So it's not new or strange or different to you. Just use it is my point. And then as we go down the value stream, we're not going to dig in as much to value creation and delivery. That's the operating model. That's the engagement model. And then operating model capabilities, the capabilities we have in place, the capabilities that are weak, the capabilities we don't need anymore. We know how to do capability assessment. We know how to do capability performance assessment, and we can understand what capabilities we have today, what do we need, what don't we need to continue to align back to that purpose and values. And then culture and engagement, super overlooked. Frequently people say you can't change culture, strategy can't exist because culture will eat it for lunch, all of these things. But every single thing we do, we are at the center of culture creation, and we can drive that through this process. Even if we're not sitting in the CEO chair, even if we're not even at the CEO table or the C-suite or even in some of those conversations, because the organization, the institution will and the things, the capabilities and the behaviors we put in place in the organization will drive behavior. It'll drive, and behavior is what culture is. So and then we do this continuous realignment thing where we loop back, and then that's what drives transformative outcomes. And pause right here to say, not everything requires transformation. This is something a long time ago I talked a lot about. A lot has changed, as I said. We live in a kind of an interesting, different world that's more interesting and higher speed every day. But simple change. I mean, probably everything is change, right? Every project is change, every analysis assessment is change, or represents change, or needs to be influential, but not everything is transformation. Transformation is, caterpillar to butterfly stuff. You look different after the transformation. You don't necessarily look different after a simple change. You may just do something differently. And I think it's really, really an important takeaway for us to think about what are we driving here? How much gas are we going to pour on this fire? Because if it's just a simple change, very easily, it's all hard, but easily accomplished relative to a transformative change. And transformative change does not necessarily take as long as what some people say. It can be a shock wave that happens that that actually transforms how we behave and the culture of the organization. Transformation can happen, can be driven by an org change, even though we're not, we never want to say, this is a whole rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic thing, org change is not going to get to everything needs to be done, but you can plant seeds and you can force transformative change through institutional constructs, org chart, comp system, recognition system, reward system. Those are institutional constructs that can drive cultural change and engagement. And those are things that we can think about and talk about in this value stream. Not going to get to that today, probably part of something that I may want to deliver in the future, but we're going to really go back around to the business alignment through the business model. But those are some little nuggets that hopefully you can think about and expect more on later. Okay, any comment, any disagreement, agreement, discussion at this point? I was pretty happy with the way this value stream turned out. I don't know if you guys are, but when I started putting it together, I was like, yep, this is it. This is how, if we think about this, we're going to be able to bring some context to the conversations that we need to have, and also guide our thinking through the actual business alignment value stream. Yes? Okay. So going to business model canvas, this is meat and potatoes business architecture, which is interesting because the business model canvas came from a very product and marketing oriented discipline. The strategizer people were product people, and designing for that purpose, where we adopted it and said, hey, this gives us so much contextual richness that we need to think about this. So walking through the business model canvas, which we could have a day on and a workshop, and if you have that interest, let me know. If you haven't worked with this, let me know, because this is really, really powerful to take people from all kinds of walks of life and diverse perspectives and finance and product and technology and whoever else and brings them together into a very straightforward conversation on what needs to be present in the organization, or what describes or what defines the organization. And if there's points of chaos or confusion, or people are just out of touch or out of sorts, bringing this thinking in to have a refresh, super, super important, and very useful. I've done it lots of times, and I've never been disappointed by having this kind of a construct to think through. So when I do this, and when a lot of business architects do this, we start, well, let me say this. The business model is defined to start with value propositions or customer segments. When you go to the book, when you go to the practice, when you go to the discipline, you will find we start in those two places. That's, I mean, because it's the most effective. There are reasons that you may want to, depending on what you're modeling, you may want to start at many different places on the canvas. That's because there are many, many different types of business models. There are, scientific business models. There are innovative business models. There are all kinds of they're highly transactional operational business models. And in those cases, you may start in a different place in the organization. What I typically do, I'll say like 90+% of the time, is I start with customer segments. I don't know if this is because I was raised in a customer focused decade of, when I was starting to work, it was all about customer first, customer cares, customer counts, everything was a customer initiative. And that's how cultures were created and really focused. But we also know it's true in the lean method. If you don't have a customer that wants something from you, you don't have a business. If you don't have something that customer wants, you don't have a business. So the two boxes on the canvas that spar for first attention: value propositions, customer segments. I do a lot of work with startups, founders. What is that great idea? Every founder always has a great idea. Everything's a great idea. Why would you think of it otherwise? There's a great idea. And you have a value that you want to create an organization around. The next most important thing, almost in the same moment, is who wants it, who cares about it. You can think it's a great idea all day long, but if someone doesn't want it, if someone doesn't want to consume it from you, buy it from you, whatever the model will suggest, then you don't have anything. And then we started getting into what else do you need in order for that value to be delivered to or consumed by that consumer, that customer. And we can muck with the words on here a little bit. It might not be a customer segment. It might be a consumer. It might be a user. It might be a constituent. There's all kinds of things that we can do to define the name customer in that picture, or that word customer. But the thing that is non-negotiable is the segment word, because that is not simply a list of stakeholders. It's a list of type of consumer. You can really over-architect and break your back on defining operating models if you don't define segments properly. If you just make a list of stakeholders and it turns out that all those stakeholders actually need to consume the same thing from that value proposition, and you construct an organization operating model to deliver to each stakeholder type individually, but really, in fact, they all are a segment because they all need to consume the same thing from you, then you've made some pretty big, expensive mistakes. So something to keep in mind. And that's the kind of thing that if you haven't got familiarity with this model, you'll want to get or talk to me about or something. And I'm happy to help anyone understand how to use this thing. Okay, value propositions must align to your purpose. What is the value you want to create because of your purpose, the why you exist? The consumers want that thing. Anyway, we're not going to go through every box, but we are going to understand that this is a very, very powerful tool for business architects, for organizations. And we are the ones who understand how to bring it to life. This is the just more discussion of it, but you should, I mean, this is a very common place, and if it's not common to you, then you should learn it. Okay, so now back to business alignment, or business alignment of my example, which is the TCBF. Because we know that there are some things in the environment that cause us to consider what our operating model and how we position ourselves. What is our business model? We've validated that our purpose is consistent. We understand our North Star. We understand our values. Member first, inclusion, advocacy, and those and the behaviors that come from those values. So now what we need to be looking at is the business model. Well, in fact, if we are thinking of shifting from a local in-person model to a global virtual digital model, we will require different activities, partners, resources, relationships, and channels. And we may be opening ourselves up to some different segments. This is the business model that exists for the TCBF today. We have very clear customer segments: practice leaders, practitioners, aspiring architects, people who are trying to get into this, career seekers, those kind of things, and then just people that are curious or maybe interested in working with business architects or this domain of architecture. We are clear, we've been clear for a long, long time. Those are the customer segments. The value propositions that we deliver: accessible content not available elsewhere. That's content. It's a unique value because I mean, it may be available, like if you want to Google something and do a lot of research and go read all the books, but also you could come to the community and you could ask a question, or you could seek someone that is an expert and you would have it available to you. Connection, community, and then the coaching, that collegial part, the how we help each other, how we coach people, how we coach each other, and everyone coaches everyone. It's a mutual benefit scenario. So that's a value proposition, and we do have those consumers. They consume those things necessarily differently from this community, and we know that. Relationships are face-to-face in the TCBF world. We also have a digital LinkedIn kind of presence. That is a significant presence. It's how we communicate. We also have a website. The channels that we work through, again, LinkedIn, website, and personal. The channel is how people know that we exist, how people know where to find us. And a lot of that is personal. A lot of that is me. A lot of that is the network that we've grown and lived inside, and all of our members, and the word of mouth and connections that we have. Key activities. Well, first we'll go to revenue streams because that's the order. Industry sponsors, we've gotten a little bit more into. In the last 10 years, we've started to collect some summit fees only to pass through and pay for the actual events to happen. But we don't carry any budget. We don't carry any money. And sometimes, unfortunately, personal funds get involved, and those would be mine. We don't want to do that. That is not part of the model, but it is in fact part of the reality. So we want to avoid that whenever we can. But we are a nonprofit. We are a altruistic benefit environment, and so that may be something we want to think about. If anyone has ideas and they want to help form the startup aspects or the founder aspects or the revenue generating commercial aspects of what this community can be and do for each other, I invite those conversations, because there's no real limits to what we can do as long as we continue to achieve our purpose, which you remember was on another page. Key activities: event planning, speaker sourcing, content creation, content delivery. Key resources: we need our venues, absolute showstoppers sometimes. We have our operating board as a key resource. We have the guild, and the standards bodies that we use and acknowledge as our foundation. We have partners, business leaders, chief architects, industry sponsors, colleges and universities, and our communities that we now are starting to work more and more with. And our cost structure is really around event costs, marketing, technology, platform tools. So this is how we're aligned today. This is how our model works. And I'm going fast, but please reach out if you want to talk about any of this. So if we think about what business model, because as I said, there are many, many business models, and there's a lot of information about this. It goes much, much deeper than the business model canvas, and even what's, we typically start talking about if we want to get into organizational architecture and true business modeling. But there are the TCBF, in my opinion, and I think has a lot of alignment to social entrepreneurship model, because we are a nonprofit. We exist to cooperate with each other. Our members cooperate with each other, whether you're a business partner or a sponsor or an architect or something else, a community leader of another community. We are a cooperative. We cooperate, right? We extend our network by engaging with other communities and their networks. We do philanthropic work. We do architecting for good. We have a pro bono path that allows apprenticeships and hands-on learning for our business architects. Again, aligned to our purpose, still works with our purpose. Anyway, that's fine. But we don't actually give, well, for every product sold, since we don't sell product, but we deliver and are consumed by. So this is the closest model we can think of, the social entrepreneurship model for how we operate. It is interesting that a key thing that we are missing is a robust revenue model. But those are things that we need to think about. Okay, next. So this leads me to what are our strengths and weaknesses? Another very, very useful and common business architecture tool. We have established brand and market. We're a strong community. We're recognized thought leadership, excellent reputation for events. We put on amazing events. We have role-respected relationships with communities, with partners, with businesses. Our weaknesses are why we're talking about this, right? We have a confusing footprint. Maybe not for me, maybe not for you, but I think we can't ignore that it continues to be a conversation. Are we local? Are we not? Are we Americas? Are we global? We have underleveraged technology, there's no doubt. And if we expand globally or expand more, we're going to need to pay even more attention to that, because we need communication platforms that probably go beyond, no doubt go beyond what we have today. And also, what about AI? What about some of the other things that we can take advantage of that we really don't? So we need to lean into that. We have stretched resources, because any volunteer organization will have stretched resources. Those are human resources, and they are inconsistent because people have other jobs and priorities, and then they'll ebb and flow on a volunteer passion project, which is what this is. We do have an unsustainable financial model if we want to get much bigger. And we have some aspects of our mission that are unrealized or under-realized. So those are my assessment. That's my assessment based on everything that I've heard and everything that I've thought about. The opportunities that we have, and remember on a SWOT, what are the opportunities in the marketplace? What are the opportunities that are present for us? We don't really have competition. We are the largest business architecture gathering of business architects in the world. We don't establish a standard. We perform. We perform this function. We perform this job. We lead discipline. And people have literally said this to me. Why aren't more people, in this space? I don't know. But let's lean in. This is a huge opportunity for us. We have opportunity. in the marketplace, we'll say. We have very strong community connections. We have so much affinity with the communities that we've now established to do started to do more seed planting with. We have willing partners, we have eager members, we have half the people surveyed say they want to help, even if we don't know quite who they are right now. Threats, key man risk. We have some thought leaders involved in this community, and I'll speak to myself specifically. We don't want this community to live or die by a human, by one person. We need to do more to focus on sustainability. Why I put unstable industry positioning here is because the ebbs and flows of how much in favor business architecture is, and we all know this because we live it. Sometimes when people realize that they don't have it, they go crazy and they need us. When people realize that they're disconnected and confused and they have a chaotic contextual scenario, they go crazy and they call us. But then other days they think they've got it all together and they don't call us, or we end up the architecture functions get cut, or they're not a role that they're seeking. So it's something, and I think it comes back to education, and I think it comes back to value delivery and performance around value. But what are we going to do about that? Again, that's a threat, and it's hard to live in that roller coaster. But let's do something about it, is my point then. And then business downturn, it's just a weird business environment right now, especially. People are unsure of where things are going or what the future is and those kind of things. So it's not really just a downturn as much as it's a time and space thing. Okay, so what are we gonna do about this? How are we gonna leverage these opportunities? How are we gonna reconcile and rationalize the TCBAF to global and local, and sort of reduce the schizophrenia that may be existing in the world, in our world? Here's the decision that has been made, that we will bifurcate. We're gonna put a parent over TCBF that is called the Business Architecture Forum, and that becomes not TC, it becomes everything. Right? It's the Business Architecture Forum. It leverages everything we know how to do, every positioning we have, and allows us to have a local TC presence, and also allows us to have any other number of local presences, and also allows for some relationships that are happening locally versus globally. And you'll see what I mean by this. It seems like a logical and obvious thing, but it will require some work to get this done. Part of what, and so this is just how our we just had to make some adjustments, some slight small adjustments to our engagement and operating picture. And this will be actually, don't read all this slide. This is just showing that the work is starting to say, okay, who's going to own the forums? Who's going to own the monthly meetings? Well, that is going to be BAF. That is going to be the Business Architecture Forum, because those become digital, those become virtual only, and those become accessible to everyone on a regular basis. Summits need to probably be owned locally. And I say probably because we haven't sorted all this yet. We're in the process of thinking about this. But summits will be owned, the events will be promoted locally in those local communities. TCBF will continue to have summits. Learning can be all over the place, but will likely be available to everyone, all inclusively, to the Business Architecture Forum, and then collabs will be happening locally. I'm going to go here, and I'm also going to look at what's happening in the chat. People are dropping. I wanted to tell you about BAF, but I really wanted to make sure that you understand how we think through something like this, and hopefully that is coming across for you. I hope it is. Okay, and this can be available to you as well. But so if the BAF is in the middle now, And that is what is the orchestration of all of this. Then, oh, it's 4 o'clock already. Sorry. Oh, there's so much more here. This is what I'm gonna send out to everyone that's here. But this is just gives us a little bit of a view of what we're going into our strategic planning with. These are the kind of capabilities that we may be interested in sorting, what goes to BAF, what goes to TCBF. And I had a conversation with Tanya Zeiler a little while ago that prompted me to make this picture. It is at the surface, but it is something that we will continue to dig into. We need to explore a dual mindset operating model, which is on a couple of different levels, big picture, local level, and then also sustain and grow. There's a lot to this that, it will require, sort of all of our business architecture skills to do. This dual mindset was the last thing I was going to talk about, so we don't need to worry too much about that. But I'm sorry that we ran over. I went too slow, but I'm going to stop because we have lost some people. Maybe there's still enough people here to keep going. Okay, so back up here. So so you can see, and you can go dig into this, that we will think of these things. We will look at the capabilities that are needed. And we will basically do a rationalization activity between what goes to the higher scale, the higher altitude, global view, what gets owned by that organization, and what gets owned by the local TCBF, and then other local child organizations, basically. And we'll do the capability sort. And if any of you want to participate in any of this, we are looking for action teams. We are looking for people to work on identity. And I really, really want you to get in touch because this is our community. And I want to know if this is a good idea or not. I need you to tell me. When we're thinking about alignment, realignment, and business modeling, we're going to result in multiple business models here. There'll be a business model that serves the global business architecture footprint that we know we have, and also a more hands-on, face-to-face local that sets the template for other local activities. Like we have one that wants to start in the Bay Area, we have one that wants to start in the Northeast, we have one that wants to start in Chicago. Even today, we know these things. So we will lean in to creating what could be something like a franchise operating model, in concept. I'm not going to go into the dual mindset thing. It's really kind of a concept of how we need to run organizations these days and how business architects need to be leaning in, because the fact is we can't be operating in silos. We can't be eyes closed, blinders on to what is really happening. That organizations are dealing with dynamics that we need to be super tuned into as business architects. So that will be part of education and training and evolution going forward. I'm stopping because I'm at time, and I'm sorry about that.